It's my pleasure to welcome our beloved brother Daniel Moses. Daniel.
Good evening, church. So, first of all, I want to say thank you so much to the pastors, the elders who have invited me to talk about this amazing topic. And I really want to thank my father in the house, my father in the Lord, Apostle A.T.B. Williams, who has played a major role in my life to doing what I do now. When you've listened to my very good brother Deacon Seya, who spoke about AI and talked about digital footprint, now what I'm going to be talking about becomes like, oh, okay, we just had a very intensive conversation about digital footprint. So which means, for the layman's understanding, I don't want to have digital footprint because I don't need it. I don't want anybody to dig anything about me up in 20 years' time, in 30 years' time. But there's something they always say, a clean conscience fears what? No accusation. Now, in today's world of business, it's very important that we all understand the importance of using AIs, social media, branding, getting your voice heard. And the reason why it's very important to get your voice heard, because when you look at social media and you look at artificial intelligence, the people who are using such tools are more ungodly people. So because you have a lot of ungodly people utilizing these things, the word that we have today is a word of influence. Who do you know? Who knows you? So as Christians, it's important for us all to use this to drive positive impact and to glorify the name of God. So I would encourage you not to be afraid of artificial intelligence, but to think, how can you use this to make an impact? So the topic I want to talk about today is going from unknown to becoming unforgettable. Now, why should even business people, professionals think about becoming unforgettable? Why should we even think about this in the first place? Next slide, please. Before I actually go into this, I usually just give a quick disclaimer. Whatever I'm going to be talking about today is not an advice, and I do not recommend that you do it. But if you choose to do it, you're solely responsible. As you know, this is televised across the globe. But these are principles I have applied to my business, because when I started my business, I did not have £5,000. But today, I've been able to build a 7-figure business that is going into 8 figures. So, next slide, please. Now, when we talk about the subject around unforgettable, now, some of us go to work. Some of us have businesses. But let me give you a simple instance, and I just want you to imagine this and follow me for a minute. Now, think about this. Most of us, once in a while, we have parties in our houses. Some of us have work parties. And some of us go to business conferences. Now, imagine you're in this place, and all of a sudden, someone walks through the door. And as soon as this person walks through the door, whilst everybody else is having a conversation, all of a sudden, everything changes. And why does everything change? Because one particular individual has just walked into the room. Eyes turn. Everybody's whispering, oh, is this person? Is this that person? Now, what sets them apart from the rest? So today we're going to talk about going from unknown to unforgettable. We're going to talk about the power of branding. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be diving into stories and strategies of how you can transform from the ordinary to extraordinary. But next slide, please. What is unforgettable? Unforgettable to me, I'll break this down so that it's very usable to entrepreneurs. I'll break this down so it's usable to professionals. First of all, unforgettable means a great product. How many of us in the room have iPhones and you love it? Just show of hands. Great. So it's an unforgettable product. How about a service? Now, when you come to CFT to worship God, from the moment you step into church, you see all our amazing men, the protocols, opening the door for you, the usher asking you to sit. After a Sunday service, everybody's asked to sit down. Let each row go out. So for a visitor who comes to CFT, they understand the service they got when they came to church, because people opened the door for them. People asked them to sit really comfortably, and as well as they were ushered in and ushered out. So you remember, not just only were you spiritually impacted by the great man of God, my father in the house, but as well as the service that you've received. So these are things that allows you to understand being unforgettable. Now, what is unforgettable again? Value. In order for you to take, you've got to give value. You can't just take without giving value. And these are things that allows you, your business as a professional, to becoming unforgettable. Influence is another power of being unforgettable, and as well as credibility. Now, let me use the church as an example. When you come to CFT or you go to other churches, you hear pastors asking to do 25 offerings in one service. But you know that will never happen in CFT, because that is credibility. And a man of God who truly understands the principles of God, teaching and raising an army that will change the world. So when you hear the name of Apostle A.T.B. Williams out there, oh, you go to that church. That's what people say, because he's got credibility. So, as professionals and as business people, for you to build an unforgettable business, you've got to first understand these different value ladders. You've got to understand how do you position yourself as professionals at your workplace. In order for you to seek for pay rises, you have to give value, you have to have influence, you have to be able to demonstrate your good deeds. Next slide, please. So as we go through this, because CFT has a lot of professionals, and I said, okay, I am going to talk to the professionals, and as well as I'm going to talk to the business people. Because when we understand the power of unforgettable, and then we navigate this through to branding, we can actually go back to our workplace to even demand higher salaries. Entrepreneurs, when you become unforgettable, it means in the business world out there, I love to use this word, you become the honey and the bees come to you. So it means you're not chasing business. Business generally come to you. So, unforgettable is reputation recognition. It helps you to establish a positive reputation as a professional. Loyalty. I'm not just going to read everything because of time. The next one is loyalty. As professionals, when you build an unforgettable career, your work becomes loyal to you. For the business person, your clients become loyal to you. All right? The reason why, for example, let's take this to the church and let's take this to the business. Many of us here has remained CFT members for years. That is loyalty to church and loyalty to God. Because we know the man of God in the house does not extort his members. For business, the same. For profession, the same thing. Loyalty is what unforgettable means. Next slide, please. In your careers, the experiences that you have undertaken, all right, throughout your life allows you to gain experience. All right, it allows you to gain experience that you can use to add value, produce your services, create your influence and your credibility in your workplace. Then, the next slide, please. So, for us as entrepreneurs, why does it also matter? And why should we become unforgettable? So, as entrepreneurs, we identify risk and we create opportunities. And the reason why we create opportunities or identify opportunities and take risk is because we want our businesses to make profit. Business owners, someone who may have started a business or bought someone else's business. So we've established both. The importance of the reason why we need to also be able to produce the same thing that goes again as well for the professionals, which is great service, great product, value, influence, and credibility. So having said all of this, I just want you to ponder on what I've said for a minute. And I will be breaking this down step by step, how you as a professionals can become unforgettable, and how business owners who are in the house can also become unforgettable, applicable to your businesses straight away. So before I go on to the next slide, just to tell you a little bit about me, because I know Pastor did say a little bit about me, but I just kind of emphasize a little bit. Why did I dive into this? So next slide. So I'm someone that has used these principles. I am currently a member of Forbes, which is a very prestigious platform. I run a podcast to share business messages and growth messages, and I'm a business coach. I'm an Amazon bestseller of my first book, and I've got a second book coming out. So that's why it's the What's First book. I'm a wealth strategy, and I have used this principle. I've applied it over the last 5 years to my business to be seen, be heard, be known, and applying them to my business allowed me to increase my sales, get investments, and to do a little bit more. So, what does unforgettable and what does unforgettable really mean? Next slide, please. Let me show you something. So, just without asking the name of the owner of this company, how many of you know the owner of this company? See, the whole church. The whole church knows the owner of the company just by seeing the logo. All right, just by seeing the color. Now, it doesn't just end there. You have two different types of branding and creating unforgettable experiences. One is a corporate branding, so nobody cares about who you are. So for example, nobody knows the owner of Lois TSB because you don't really see him all the time, for example. I just used that. I just made that up. But we all know the owner of this company. Next slide, please. So, Sir Richard Branson. These individuals understood the importance of building an unforgettable business. That's the reason why you know them. All right? The next slide, please. If you Google his name, you know who he is. When he started his business, everything he's ever done is on Google, which is the digital footprint that the Kinsey spoke about. So now it can be positive or it can be what? Negative. I'm sure you guys, the church agrees with me. Yes or yes? Great. So having a digital footprint in the end, sorry, I'm just going to get a bit of water. So, having a digital footprint in the end is positive, isn't it? But you can hear apostles talk about Beyonce all the time. But that is also somebody who understands not just the music, but she also understood the importance of Unforgettable. But she's using it in a demonic way. Does everyone agree with me? Great. So my opinion to the church is, don't be afraid of digital footprint as long as you're utilizing it the correct way. Okay? So Google knows who he is. If Richard Branson was to walk into this church right now and demand every church members to give him £1 billion, and we have £1 billion, are we going to question the business model, or we're going to hand over our money to him? Yes or no? Who's going to do it? Everybody's going to do it, because he has a business model. He's spoken about it year after year after year. So he's got the credibility, he's got the influence, he's got the service, he's got all of these things. So as entrepreneurs, this is the reason why we need to kind of look inwards to say, why shouldn't our business get known? Whether we're trying to build a corporate brand or whether we're trying to build a personal brand. But obviously the topic is focused on personal business branding. So it means you, the owner, you're the face. And this is the reason why we have the likes of Richard Branson. We know them. The likes of Elon Musk. We know them. The likes of Donald Trump. We know them. The more they became known, the more easier it was for them to raise finances at every given point in time in their businesses, so they can grow those business into multi-billion pounds, multi-million dollars. Next slide, please. So, this is Sir Jonathan Ive. I'll use Dickinson as an example to make this illustration. So this is someone who worked with, today, because of time, he now works with Apple and is a senior designer. Okay? And if you look at the history of his job roles, started at 1989 to 1992, where he worked for the first company there, the second company, and the third company there, till Apple. So if you see him here, you can tell that he has a massive knowledge. He rose to the top of his career. Now, for a lot of us as professionals, most times we're doing some great things and it ends within us because nobody knows us. Well, next slide, let me show you why us as professionals can do what he's done. So if you go to Google now, Google knows him, but he doesn't own a business. He doesn't own a business, but he is an executive in an organization. And the reason why Google knows who he is as a key player in Apple is because, next slide please, he got known. So to the professionals in the house, what you want to do with this is that, first of all, you want to review your contracts in your job. Does your role in your establishment allow you to have a voice to speak? So if your role allows you to speak, so for example, like Dickinson, I just spoke on the stage here, what that means, it allows you to now start creating your own digital footprint, which allows you to go and demand more at work. And how do you do this? For example, you can see this individual is on the Wall Street Journal sharing his vast knowledge as a professional. Second is Wired, and then him and the current King of England. So not only has he created an impact, but what he's done is that not only has he worked and had massive experiences, but because he's been interviewed, he's been featured on podcasts, he's been featured on things like social media, maybe he himself even have a social media account, and the list goes on and on. So his knowledge is not just for his establishment, his knowledge becomes global. You will all agree with me right now that he's not going to be earning £1 million a month. He'll be earning probably more than that. But because he's knowledgeable, and he's able to share those knowledge because he has a voice, because he's granting interview, because he's telling everybody what he does in Apple. He's known. This now allows him to become an influential person, that if he was to resign from Apple tomorrow, it could even affect the market price. So being unforgettable means turning yourself into a person of value. During this men's convention, Apostle have said it like, the doctors in the house, I want you to go into research. I want you to do A, B, and C, and D. Whether we're doctors, whether we're nurses, whatever you do as a profession, business analysts, testers, and all these different careers that are out there, what you really want to do is to first review your contracts and to start creating your own voice in the experiences that you have developed over the years, and to get known in a positive way, rather than letting what's in the world right now, where we're only hearing the voice of people who are ungodly, take over, so that we too, as Christians, as church people, we can start having the front seat rather than staying in the back seat. Next slide, please. So I've actually gone through that, to be honest, because what I've just shared is basically how to becoming unforgettable. So for us as entrepreneurs, business people, we would always tell, why do I care? That's not for me. I don't need to grant an interview. I don't need to go on national TV to share what I think about business. I don't need to be heard. I don't need to be known. Doesn't matter. I don't need it. But the fact is, when you don't create an unforgettable strategy or a pathway, we end up having a situation where we continue to work 20 times more and not having inflow of clients, customers, people who want to utilize our service. Next slide, please. So, we've established the unforgettable experience. Now, let's now understand how branding plays a key role in the experience. In the past, most people will agree with me in this room. The first thing first, when it talks about branding, people say website and logo. True? Website and logo, that's your brand, correct? But in today's economy, a brand goes beyond a website. It goes beyond your logo. It goes beyond your color. Your brand is your voice, your identity. What are you known for? What message do you carry? What service are you providing? Now, the definition of branding refers to developing promotion, your authenticity, okay? Identifying within your own profession or as a business owner. Next slide, please. I spoke about earlier, why should we build a brand? Because as business people, we become the honey, the bees come. There is nobody that will put honey in their mouth and spit it out, correct? Because it's sweet, it's nice, sugar. Who doesn't like it? So you develop your business through that way. As a professional, you become the voice in your business. You have a strategy. It helps you build credibility and trust. Next slide, please. Let me very quickly give you the reason why everybody should think about building a brand. It builds your beliefs, your reputation, your authenticity, notoriety. In your job, it helps you increase your salary because you're sharing what you know. You become your knowledge, you're sharing your experience, you're writing books about it. As a business person, By having a brand, people come to you asking for your service rather than you going to them. Next slide, please. So, what does the Bible say? Matthew 5:16. And I obviously illustrated already that you can either use it in a bad way or a good way. So, Matthew 5:16 says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." When you build a good brand, a good service, you have the good influence. As a Christian, who does that then glorify? It glorifies your Father in heaven. When you become very known at workplace and you show that you're truly an expert, who does it glorify? Your Father in heaven. So for us Christians, we should not shy from creating a digital footprint in a good way so that we can earn more income for ourselves or generate more cash flow for our businesses. Next slide, please. A good name, Proverbs 2 verse 1. A good name is more desirable than riches, than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver and gold. This verse emphasizes the value of a good reputation. And I'm sure the house agrees with me. Next slide, please. So, why does it matter? Why branding matters is, as you all know, I started property just about 6 years now, 2017. I came to a place where I needed to make a property transaction. And I needed £10,000, so £5,000 to £10,000. This is how all these things I've just spoken about came about. The first thing first was I picked up my phone and I tried to call many people. It was so embarrassing that I did not know anyone that could give me £5,000 to £10,000 because they did not know who I am. They did not know what I was trying to do. In fact, everybody said it was a risk. You haven't done it. Why should I give it to you? So, for entrepreneurs who are looking to start businesses, this is the challenge that you will face every single day. So this is the reason why you have to use social media, use every single strategies I've just spoken about to building yourself a brand, becoming the expert, sharing your knowledge. You see, knowledge doesn't hide. Knowledge shows. The moment you open your mouth and you're having a conversation with someone, when you're knowledgeable, people trust and believe in you. So, by being knowledgeable, eventually, I decided to go deep into getting known. And I eventually raised that money. But before I raised that money, I had to find a way to learning personal branding, getting people to trust me. Then I started creating awareness. I started creating campaigns. I started running marketing in order to get known so that people can believe in my business, trust my business, and then support my business to grow. Personal branding allowed me to scale in the last 5 years into 7 figures because I shared every single thing that I learned, every single thing that I've known, and that has allowed me to now create a digital footprint by who I stand for, by what I stand for. And in this day and age, people do business with who they like and what? Trust. Nobody wants to really do business with the big companies anymore. They want to do business with you. Who are you? Where can I find you? Can I say, I'm coming to your house and I'm going to find you there? Can I say I'm coming to your business and I'm going to find you there? So a brand and being unforgettable, it's all about integrity, reputation. do people know you? If people do not know who you are, they're not going to do business with you. And that is just the truth. So, going through the part of the unforgettable, I wanted to share how everyone in the room can actually use this to either upscale their career or their business. Next slide, please. So what can you do? Number one, every professional in the room, every business owner in the room should first look inward to become a person of value. What value can you offer to someone? How can you serve? What value can you give to someone? How can you serve? You cannot build a brand if you're not a person of value. If you're not delivering value, your brand will fail. So it's all about value first. Then the second one is, once you've established your value, it is, can you establish an online presence? Can you? Then if you can, the world that we are right now is all about perception. How do people perceive you? Who are you? People message me these days on social media every now and then and say, I've got this money, can we work together? I have £100,000, can we work together? Because of the fact that, number one, I'm credible. I've been doing this for the last 5 years. We survived COVID, hallelujah. We survived COVID. And to be honest, someone said to me, he said, you survived COVID, so I want to do business with you. And again, Apostle always said this, in the days of famine, children of God will enjoy plenty. So if you can leverage the knowledge that our Father gives to us in this house, and you go out there to becoming unforgettable in your workplace, you can demand more at work by having the right presence. LinkedIn is a big platform for professionals and as well as business people. Facebook, Instagram. The question is, what are you sharing? Have you got any hidden closet? But then if you do, come out in clean hands. Share that story as a source of inspiration. No matter how dirty it looks like, share it before it comes to haunt you. Because if you don't share it, they dig it up. Oh, sorry, I didn't know when I said that. No, but you should have told us. Or as you grow, you gradually put in a strategy to tell the story. So in that way, your digital footprint doesn't come back to what? Hurt you. Because after all, you came out anyway. So you have to develop an informative media strategy in order for you to go from unknown as unforgettable. So let me refer back to the Kinsey. So writing, if you're an expert like Kinsey, you can write a full-blown article on newspapers that eventually gets featured on national TVs, because media people research every single day and they're looking for contributors. Now imagine writing multiple articles about what you know as a vice president already at work. So you create a massive awareness that allows company chase you to want to employ you and pay you the top dollar. Right? So social media is not a bad thing. Next slide, please, because I have not gone through that part. So, example of what I've done, I've now written 2 books in the last 2 years. I've written 2 books. One of the book is the new one coming out on the 14th of July. It's called The Test, Transitioning from the Ordinary to the Extraordinary. Last year, I was invited from London to come to Nigeria to talk about myself on national TV, on Channels TV. And I remember when they were telling me this, the person who actually told me compared to Hush Puppy, he said, when we look at overseas, you hear Hush Puppy, but who is blowing the trumpet of people like you, who are spreading the good message? And I'm sure everybody heard about the Hush Puppy story, right? So, good deeds and what? Bad deeds. So, right now, the media is looking for people that can share genuine stories that can change and impact the world. So my question to you, the church, is, are we going to sit down and let people who are demonic with high influence rule the world? Or are we going to, as church people, as God's children, rise up, build a brand, have an influence, and make an influence, converting one person at a time to God? So it's all about your work. Your brand is your work. Your brand is who you are, what you're known for. What do you stand for? So, as you can see there, I've been featured in so many places, and as well as my second book. So in closing, I thought I would invite anyone who probably wants to know a bit more. I know I've spoken to the pastor. We're planning to probably, because an hour it's never going to be enough to go deep into what branding means and how can you put in a strategy, and so it's done for you. So I wanted everyone so next slide. If you want to network and if you want to probably meet other people, business people, professional people who are thinking in the same direction that you wanted to go, I have an event coming up. The ticket to this event is usually £70, but I've offered 10 of them free completely to church. So if you want to come, scan it, use the code CFT, and you come absolutely for free. Next slide. So I also wanted to give 100 copies of my books away to the church members. So for anyone who wants to grab a copy of my book, so I'm giving 100 copies away to church as well. This is about £30 worth of books. So the first one there is £10, the second one is £20. So I'm giving 100 copies away to the church. So all you just need to do is scan it, put in your details and your address and everything else, and it will get shipped out to you within the next couple of days or couple of weeks. So that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you so much, pastors, and